Hey folks, how are you? Happy Friday. Back for episode 12. Apologies for the little bit of a schedule shift from yesterday. I know we're typically a Thursday slot. We had some client priorities take place, so those things happen. We just had to shift a little bit into Friday. So happy Friday, everybody. Angie, over to you. Happy Friday to you.
Thank you. Happy Friday, everyone. It's a good day, and we're excited to be with everyone again.
Yeah. So this is going to be a fun episode. We have the normal structure that we're going to rock and roll through, a company sort of thought, our philosophy. We just give you a little bit of insight into Yazo. We'll take a shift into a marketing topic for today, talking about customer success, customer stories, and how you leverage those in 2023. And then we'll wrap up with a Find Things shout out. So stick around for us, or stick around for the whole thing if you can. We try to keep it around 20 minutes, but we're going to have some fun if we go over. It's just the nature of the beast with the two of us. We just get into conversation. So
keep talking.
Let's just dive in. Mom, I'm going to throw it over to you. Why don't we talk a little bit first about, just encouraging listening. That's our topic of the day amongst your team and how important that is and for a number of different reasons. So why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So corporate philosophy is encouraging listening. And this is just something that like for us, it's a corporate philosophy for two reasons. One, it's not always as easy as you think it is. And so giving it like hierarchy in terms of your corporate, just your philosophies as a company is really important, because you may need to bring in some additional things like training even. Mm-hmm. And then it coincides really with some things like DISC profiling, understanding what types of employees and team members and consultants you have on your team, because it's not natural for everybody to be a listener. So what's interesting about listening is it kind of goes back to the way, it can even go back to things like it's been associated with birth order, how you were brought up, what type of parents you had, what your DISC profile is. And if a lot of times leaders have to learn to listen, because they are used to speaking and they get super excited about topics. And when you're super excited, you have a higher tendency to interrupt, right? Because you just it's not always that you're being rude. It's just you're excited and you want to get what you have to say out on the table, right? So it's not always being rude. So I think listening is a core philosophy, because on the flip side of that, what happens when you don't listen? People feel undervalued. They feel unappreciated. They feel, especially like if we're talking about clients and sales, if you're not listening, you're not going to close deals. You may not develop your product and service properly because you didn't really hear what your customers wanted or needed. So there's a lot of listening that goes around with us from a core philosophy as a marketing agency.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit on some really interesting and cool topics as we look at, the sales piece. I want to dive into that in just a little bit, because we obviously have clients that we support on the sales strategy side, the business development side. But really in the listening piece, when you said talking about, developing leadership, and that was one of the biggest things for me in reflecting as the shift into being CEO and really trying to take this agency to the next level, is what are the things that I need to better myself on? And listening is one of the biggest things, because you're right. There's a lot of times where I get excited and I want to jump into things where I don't allow the opportunity for the team to really share their opinions and their thoughts that are fantastic. And it's not that I don't want to hear them. I think a lot of times it's just that, you just get, like you said, there's that excitement and you jump. So it's really, really important from that perspective to allow your team that ability to speak and to share their thoughts, because you said that there's the value there. They really want to, see that they're heard and have the opportunity to share their thoughts. The other piece that I want to talk on really quickly before we talk about sales is the development piece, which you talked about as well. Listening to your employees, listening to your team members about what interests them. They might not explicitly come out and say, hey, I want to develop more on the marketing side, or I want to develop more in understanding, production, or I want to learn more about, IT, or whatever it may be. But just listen to how they talk about things, what their interest is, because they may be giving you hints that, hey, I'm interested in this, just give me a little bit of a chance. So those are all things that I think are just important from the development of your staff, of your team. But the sales piece is really, really, really interesting, because as we talk about, the shift in the 21st century and the, virtual selling, it's always, what's your sales pitch? oftentimes the less you talk, the more productive and more successful you are in your sales. So we had a sales meeting this morning where, you always try to talk about it from a ratio perspective. 40% to 60%. 40% of the time you talk, 60% of the time you listen. I just thought that was really, really interesting as we shift gears. You're constantly engaged with people, but you're always talking. It's always about what's the message that you're putting out, not what are you listening for.
Yeah, that's so cool, because I think for me, one of the skills I really wanted to develop probably 5 years ago was interviewing. And, so I can interview for writing. That's kind of easy, but interviewing in this capacity, like on a podcast. And so I've had a vlog, excuse me. So I've had the opportunity to kind of co-host those things, and have just been recently started 2 new ones where one's kind of easy because it's solo, but when I'm interviewing somebody else, there's this art of how much do I talk and how much do I let them talk. And, it's kind of like you have to understand that philosophy of what makes a person engage in something, because it would be very boring if you're doing all the talking or I'm doing all the talking. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that there's a deep meaning to listening, but there's also a marketing sales meaning to listening. So you're developing as a leader, as a salesperson, as a marketer, but you're also, there's that deep caring, which goes along with Yazo and what we believe in, our faith and all that. There's a deep caring quality to how much you can listen to someone without interrupting. And there's one thing that I want to talk about, because I had to avoid this, and I had to deeply address this, is you can actually develop to be a fake listener. And exactly. So multitaskers, and I think and so for me, it's naturally stopped, because the older you get, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to multitask at the level that you used to. Mm-hmm. But because when I was younger, I was a very high level multitasker, I can look like I'm listening and I really didn't hear one thing you said. And I could do that when I was younger, a lot more than I can now, because now it catches up with me and people are like, you weren't even listening to me because you can't process the way I used to. So I think one of the things I would encourage people to look at, and it's hard, looking in the mirror and saying, I'm doing this is very difficult sometimes.
It is.
You don't mean to be not nice to people, but if you are a fake listener, that's something to work on.
It'll catch up to you. Well, that's, the philosophy of today is encouraging listening, but not just listening, the active listening piece, and taking some time to figure out what that means to you, what it means to your team. Are you doing it? Is there something that you maybe should take some time to review from a listening perspective? As crazy as that may sound, it's important. And as simple as it may sound, it is extremely important. So we encourage listening, and it's not just listening, but active listening across your team, in your conversations, in your sales, in your internal meetings, your external communications. It's not always how you position yourself, but how you're listening to your peers. Yeah. So shift out of the philosophy piece into the marketing section of Find Things Refresh. So a lot of fun with this one: customer success, client success, and then the use case and the development of the case studies to be able to leverage those successes. So Angie, I know this is one of the topics that you were excited about. So again, I want to let you drive this a little bit, and then I want to backfill with some stats and some things that I think are just interesting as we talk about it in today's, in 2023. What does that mean in 2023? So why don't you kick us off?
Okay. So I am super excited about this because, I think it's time for people to refresh their case studies and their customer testimonials and find new ways. So, sometimes we'll hear we spent a lot of time on these customer testimonial videos and writing these out, yes, downloadable pieces. And, when we go back to what was new for 2023 in marketing, it was simplify your website, bring in audio, bring in shorter video, bring in bullet points even on your website, because I don't want to read long paragraphs. So I'm like all about finding these creative ways right now to come up with customer like testimonials, calling them like 1, 2, 3 videos where, you have maybe your fuller case study or testimonial that someone can download if they want more, or they can go to the
Sure.
longer video, but like where it would be even me like standing there, if I'm the customer, saying, here's the 3 reasons why I went with Yazo. 1, 2, 3, and you're telling them, and like that can be used in social. And then if you want to hear more, watch my full video, or if so that kind of thing. And then, one of the big charges that, was in all of the research this year was people are working more from remote. So if your customers are remote workers in any capacity, that you should be doing direct mail again. And I love the idea. And I know we talked about it probably 4 or 5 fine things before, but it was doing a postcard that was nothing but a QR code. And just like, obviously it has to have your branding on it so people know what company is and everything. And that QR code takes to a customer testimony like this, where it's just like, all right, this is why I use blah, blah, blah. And then it's short. And again, the development of a longer piece that goes with that if they want to learn more. But the whole idea of dumbing down everything, and that has become not from like an intellectual dumbing down, but it has become more from a simplification and from an attention getting thing, where people just want the attention to be, they want short spans of things.
Short.
Yeah. And again, that speaks to our topic at the very beginning, because our listening is really poor right now, and our time that we spend on interviewing it, like, or reading is it's like, I want short snippets,
Absolutely. And I mean, this piece of the case studies and the way in which you deliver those, I think this is a really cool topic, because case studies have been around forever. This is nothing new. Highlighting success stories is really, really important. But I think, if we talk about it in today's world in 2023, what does that mean? In 2023, it's social proof. 40% of customers rely on family and friends before they make a purchase. 70% of them are reading reviews before they make a purchase. And 92% of B2B buyers are more likely to buy after they read a trusted review. So think about that. I mean, it's not just the way in which, we want to highlight these customer successes, but it's truly the value of that customer success that's going to lead to more engagement and more sales on your side. So Angie, I think you made a great point of how to do this, because it then becomes like, okay, we understand that we need to do it, but I'm overwhelmed. I'm way too busy. How am I supposed to get all these testimonials in a place? And I'm supposed to get video, and I'm supposed to write about it, and I'm supposed to paste on social. So I want to talk a little bit about like what we do at Yazo from a strategy perspective to encourage the kickoff and encourage the start of that initiative. So it's always start with low-hanging fruit. Do you have a champion customer? Do you have a customer that really loves your brand, your service, your product? That's low-hanging fruit. You go out to them and you ask for, maybe you give them 1, 2, 3. Can you give me a written testimonial? Can you give me someone that you think that you may be reaching out to as a potential referral? And then third, would you be open to scheduling some time with me just to do an interview? If they're willing to have that time with you or give you a couple of those things, you've already started the process. You get in a written review and you have their permission, there's a social post opportunity.
Right.
Make sure that gets on there from a review perspective. The interview piece, if they say yes, you're able to take that time, potentially record that interview to listen to what they say, to understand what makes them love your brand, your product, your service. And then from there, piggyback that into, maybe it's an opportunity just to say, hey, can you give me a 15-second video? I'll help you write the script. But what it is that you really like about us. And then you can take that and atomize it. You have a 5-second chunk that goes out in social, another 15-second that supports the case study that you've gotten from the listening that you did in the interview, that you can then write all of that. So there's a way to put a process in place. It's the sort of moral of the story here. It's everything can feel overwhelming, but if you look at the low-hanging fruit and you put a process in place, you can do this thing in 2023. You can absolutely leverage client stories, case studies, and use cases in 2023. And I think it's a big piece that we should help folks understand. This is the lifeblood of your company, is social proof.
Yes. And I just want to encourage 2 things, real-time testimonials. And I want to, and obviously this isn't for every business,
Sure.
Retail, you're a real-time service business. I want to encourage real time, and I want to encourage like user developed content, which would be like, instead of just saying, can you do a video for me? Could you write a blog for us? And we put it on our website, and that you tell your story in the blog. That's user, developed content is super important. And
UGC is huge.
Yes. So, and then I think this whole idea of real time, if I have a retail shop, and I know it takes training your salespeople, but I want to really encourage this, that, someone's in, they're super happy about, what they purchased. And you say, hey, would you go live with me right now? And yes, you're going to get a lot of people say no, but you're also going to get a lot of people say yes. And you're just got to say, hey, I'm here today with Eli, and he just bought this really cool black t-shirt, and he wants to shout us out. And, then everybody sees that, like, Eli, I saw you in, blah, blah, blah. And then it's going viral all of a sudden because someone is just a funky personality or just funny. And now you've got this real-time story. So I want to encourage that.
Absolutely. And there's a way to, again, build that process, because again, it'll be the fear of how do we do it? Who's going to do it?
Yeah,
you can build that process. Exactly. And it's not the right route for every type of, product or service, but in that B2C world, in that retail where you're getting that sort of, I don't want to call it instant gratification, but more of that immediate gratification, it's really important to try and leverage that, because real time live is huge. When we talk about the algorithms behind the social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it, live is huge. It just makes the algorithm tick.
And I would argue that it can be done in some B2B. So let's say you are a company that is implementing a new technology, and you're on site implementing this new technology, and you're hearing like people saying this training is really good. Like, this is the best implementation we've had. Like, listen to what the comments are being said, and then just go over to that person and say, is your corporate, does it allow for us to go live together? Because you're saying some great stuff about this implementation. And again, some will not be allowed to do that for whatever reason, their approval process, but like then going live with them and saying, hey, we're here implementing, this new process at blah, blah, blah. And we're just hearing great things, and they wanted to share. And that person says, I mean, we've implemented a lot of software, but this is the best one ever. Wow. How powerful would that be? And then they're seeing your team, and that your team is real people doing real stuff out there. Powerful.
It is. It's so powerful, because again, it is the age of social proof. So the more that you're seeing the proof on social and live, that's a win.
Yeah.
A couple other things that I think are important, just we talk about, like effective customer stories or success stories, things to highlight, focusing on pain points. The reason, someone got off the block or made the decision to do that is typically because of a pain point or a need. So I think focusing on that and being able to highlight those things, listening for what those pain points are, showing transformation. If you have a product or a service, to Angie's point, that you're going into technology and you're implementing, and you're showing the transformation of what it was and how that technology took them to a new place in business, show the transformation of how your product, your brand, or your service helped in that, that transformation journey. It's important too, you obviously include the customer's perspective. So you talk about UGC, user generated content, hearing it from the point of view of the customer is phenomenal. And then the other piece is keep it concise. I mean, we sit here and talk about it all the time. We want all of the content, but short, sweet, and to the point. In the age of overwhelming sensory information to you all the time, it's important to be concise, hit the pain points, and have it from the customer. So I think those are just three things to look at it, because this is it's an opportunity for you to leverage this outlet or this channel of customer stories in 2023.
Yeah, be real, and people want to see real and genuine and honest and creative.
So if you guys have questions on any of that, I mean, this is a great topic. I mean, we could sit here and go on for an hour just about customer success stories and projects that we've done it in. And there's some things that I think in terms of how you deliver them, it's not always just through video. It's not always just through blog. We talked about the postcard. What other opportunities are there to be a bit different that you can deliver these customer success stories in some form or fashion? So think about that. If you guys have questions, you guys want us to dive into it a little bit further, drop comments, let us know. We'd be happy to, carve out another episode focused on this. But I'm going to wrap things up and shift gears into our Find Things shout out. So this is going to be, I think, kind of a random shout out for us, sort of a follow Friday suggestion. Angie, so do you have anything on your mind that you would like to sort of shout out?
I don't know if, I don't know if we can, but I think it's like security is in everybody's mind. And if people are hiring for security right now, I think we have a new client. I don't know if we're allowed to shout them out. Eli, you may know more than me, but I think if you're hiring for security and you're struggling with that, we have someone that could possibly help.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a huge one that's been on my mind a lot, just because this is everything you read is about data security, and people are starting to ramp up their teams. And I think we have resources as an agency.
Absolutely. And I would say if you are interested at all in cybersecurity, we have a number of clients that we could probably point you in the right direction to. I mean, this is an industry that we play in quite a bit, and we've had a lot of fun. I mean, it's ever changing. Every day is a little bit different. And it makes the marketing and the messaging and the positioning really, really fun and exciting. But it is also a hot topic. It's a hot button, and it is extremely, extremely relevant. So if you're out there and you're looking, from a hiring perspective, one of our clients, Covenant Technologies, is absolutely a fabulous, I would call it recruiting, but it's a different type of recruiting. They've been there. These are former executives and professionals from the cybersecurity and the IT space that understand the pain points. So if you're going out and you're looking to hire and you're struggling, whether you're a Fortune 500 or you're small, I mean, these folks understand the needs of filling those positions. So that's a great, great resource in Covenant Technologies. And then we have providers that are out there as well. If you're looking for a solution for a partner, we also have partners that we work with, whether it's Reclamier or All-Star Partners. These are all folks that we have connections to. So if you're interested in just getting pointed in the right direction, we'd be happy to be, a connector for you and to connect those folks to you. So if you have interest in the cybersecurity space for whatever reasons, employee training, I'm worried about something in my policies and procedures, or I need help hiring, we can help make those connections for you. So that's our shout out. It's all about cybersecurity. If you're interested in that space, you need to market in that space, shout us out, give us a holler, and we'll help, point you in the right direction. So a little bit of a different type of shout out, but it's definitely extremely important because we're hearing it all the time. If you don't see it in the news, then you're probably not looking at the news, because breaches are happening all the time.
Yep.
This has been a lot of fun. So I appreciate you, as always, Mother, joining in and being the co-host on here with me. And I'm excited to jump into what is going to be episode 13. I love number 13. That was my birthday. So I have a fond connection to the number 13. So I'm sure episode 13 will be a lot of fun. Stay on the lookout. Stay tuned for when we get that scheduled for February. But we appreciate y'all, tuning in with us. We love the fans, and hope that you guys will jump back in and continue to dive in with us. So Thank you. Happy Friday.
See you all. Happy Friday.
Have a good one, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, everybody.